Welcome to All About Art. My name is Alexandra, and I'm an art historian, curator, and writer. Within this podcast, topics relating to art history, cultural policy, the arts sector, as well as a large range of other art-related topics will be covered. Conducting critical discussions, having entertaining exchanges, or just enjoying some relaxing chats, All About Art is where you'll find it all. Join me in exploring and developing cultural discourse. Welcome to another episode of All About Art. In this episode, I sat down with a co-founder of Kupfer, Penelope Kupfer. Kupfer is a gallery and project space located in Hackney, northeast London, which functions as a platform for exhibitions and residencies. Having opened in 2017, Kupfer has showcased the work of nearly 80 artists from different generations and geographies, with a focus on those who are currently underrepresented in the London art circuit. They also hosted the second anniversary celebration for the All About Art podcast, which was bristling with networking opportunities through the Art World networking speed dating and other fun games reimagined for knowledge exchange, as well as the panel talks and exhibition tours, which all took place over the span of 3 days this April. Listen on to hear me ask Penelope about founding the project space and how it has developed since its inception. We talk about how her practice as an artist influences her work with Kupfer, and vice versa. So how collaborating with emerging artists and curators impacts her. We also delve into the topic of motherhood, a huge theme for Penelope and for Kupfer, and how important it is to engage in conversations around it. Thank you, Penelope, for coming on, and to Kupfer for the collaboration, and for hosting the All About Art podcast's second anniversary weekend. Before I dive in, I wanted to let you lovely listeners know that All About Art is on Patreon. So if you want some behind-the-scenes content, maybe a bit of merch, the chance to get one-on-ones with me and my guests, or you're simply wanting to support this project, I would be absolutely thrilled if you decided to sign up. You can do so through the link in the show notes. I also wanted to say thank you to those who have already signed up. Your support means the world, and it makes the further production, improvement, and growth of the podcast possible. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful. And now, on to the interview. Welcome to the podcast, Penelope. You are the founder of Kupfer, a project space based in Hackney, northeast London. So to start us off, I would love to talk about Kupfer as a project space. What is the gallery's focus, and how do you find artists to show?
So the focus for Kupfer is to show emerging and marginalized artists and to be a platform for artists to experiment and try things out. Mm-hmm. So we like to see it as a place where you can use Kupfer as a platform also as like a stepping stone for your practice. And at the same time, it can also be for like a more established artist who would like to go back to the roots and rethink some ideas to take it somewhere else. So it's very, very experimental. And initially we thought about it to be more like not being that polished white cube where you have to have something super ready, but you can have an idea and then try it out and see how it goes and take it further.
Yeah. And can you tell me about how it's been since its inception in 2017? What led you to actually start Kupfer initially, and how has it been and changed throughout the last 6 years?
Yeah, so we started Kupfer because I had a 6-month-old baby, and I needed a studio space close to my home because of that. And I have 3 kids. So the baby was 6 months old, and there was this railway arch, and we rented it, and my partner also is an artist, and we rented it as a studio space. But then I thought there's so much space in that railway arch that we should use it for shows
Yeah.
and to show work. And I'm from Germany, but I'm coming from Berlin, and space at the time in 2005 wasn't such a problem. So I was really used to find some space to do things. And when I came to London, I realized how difficult it is to have a space for just to make something, and why not, and experiment and put something up. And in London, it was very, very different. So I thought, I have all this space in this arch that we were using as studios. We have to use it to show works. And then I asked a very good friend of mine, Kiki Mazzucchelli, she's a curator, and I said, look, we have all this space, shall we do something? And she was up for it, and that's how the whole thing started, just for fun, just use the space to be like opportunistic and try to bring something else to the art scene in London, where we thought, these projects or artists are not going to be seen because, they might not be picked up by a gallery. So we wanted to be there for that. In the end, it was just about having fun. And that's how we were running it for the first 2-3 years, with this why not attitude, and just to lighten up our lives as artists and curators as well, and to bring something else to the table, for setting up shows. And then bit by bit, it kind of started to pick up, and we got more serious about it. And then after, I think, the first 3 years, we started to program it more regularly, having shows like every 2 months, and then very quickly monthly, with a turnaround of a week. And that's where we are right now. And also thinking about more the commercial aspect of actually being a place where you show work, but to make it more sustainable also for the artist to sell the work and survive as a space, but also for the artists to be more, able to sell the work themselves as well, and to elevate their practice more commercially.
Yeah, absolutely. And so while you support emerging artists and arts professionals, because you also bring in emerging curators, not just emerging artists, and so while you're supporting them through Kupfer, you are also an artist yourself. Can you tell me a bit more about your practice and how it informs your work with Kupfer?
Yeah, so I'm a painter predominantly, but I also dive into sculpture, sometimes installation, because I'm very inspired by materials. And having 3 children, and COVID happened, I had to bring this aspect on motherhood into my work, because it was unavoidable to be there. So I think I work with things that I see, that I live. It's like the everyday, it's very domestic. And it's, again, I have this thing about being opportunistic, and I see a kitchen towel, and I take the kitchen towel and I paint on it. I comb my child's hair, and I get inspired by the movement of the hair, and by making, this invisible labor happening, which kind of informs as well a lot of my reading about feminism and philosophy. So it's a lot in there, and how I tie this into the work that I do for Kupfer. I'm very excited about art in itself first, but I'm also excited about making things, and that I have other artists coming to me and asking me for shows and showing the work, for me, it's a pleasure to think I don't have to do all this myself, because there are other people making really, really good work. And we work together and collaborate, doing things together and being in the same boat and making things happening for other people while I make my own work happening. And I want to show my work, and there are other people who want to show their work. And it's kind of really cross-pollinating and nourishing. And I learn so much through other artists and their ideas, other curators and their curation. And it's a very rewarding and generous thing for me to be there, enabling curators or artists to show the work. But it nurtures also my own practice a lot.
On that, when it comes to being inspired by curators or artists, could you give an example of when you've collaborated with someone and they've changed your outlook on something, or they've shifted how you practice?
I think like a very good example is the show we are having right now with Collective, because they have this approach to unfinished work and maybe even to failure in a way, where they think about that exhibition space as a stepping stone. And when they put up the whole show, I thought, this is exactly what we are about.
Yeah.
We are the space, or I want to be, a place where you come and you can show something that's in development. And also it gives me a lot of freedom to think about, I can just show some half-finished stuff and then open it up to the public and show it and get some feedback and then maybe further develop it. So I think we are kind of in this, it's not really a gray zone, but it's like a zone where you are allowed to play.
Yeah, I was going to say experiment, but play is a much
Play is
better
good.
word.
Yeah.
One thing that Kupfer has been championing is furthering the conversation of motherhood and juggling that with an arts career. This is something that you mentioned straight off the bat when we started speaking on this podcast, but also throughout this discussion so far. And through looking at how you further develop your programming, you've done talks on the subject led by, for example, art historian Hedy Judah, who is the author of How Not to Exclude Artist Mothers and Other Parents. You're a mother, so this comes from a personal place too. Can we talk a bit more about that?
Sure. I think I got very much into this, worrying about this consciously, because it's subconsciously for every artist, woman artist, a thing, like a thought, am I going to have children or not? What is it going to do to my career? I had children. I was an artist, but I had children, and then I studied formally art afterwards. So I knew that I would be disadvantaged from the offset. So for me, it was always like a very present thing. But I was always also thinking about young emerging artists, women who have to make or feel pressured to make this decision. And when I did my master's at the Slade, I had really good chats with several women tutors about choice of motherhood or not having motherhood. And I think the art world is a very, the world in general is very much, women are very much judged by if they have children or not in a professional way and in a not professional way.
But did you feel like you had support in these discussions at Slade?
Yeah, so absolutely. At the Slade, I had these tutors who were guiding me and telling me about Hedy Judah, for example. That's how I found out about her book and her project, what she was up about. And also Jennifer Higgy, and then Pragya Agrawal, who wrote a lovely book about motherhood as well, and the idea of having a choice and what it all entails. Obviously, I want to support and shed a light on that. And we did a show here where we invited Hedy Judah, and we had Pragya with a book launch of her latest book, Hysterical, which I love and recommend so much.
We can link that in the show notes of the podcast. Always up for good book recommendations. If you're a mother, what you were describing earlier, that is developing deeper skills in not only multitasking, but also compartmentalizing and being able to focus, as you said, on certain tasks and be able to fully give yourself to those tasks in that moment, which, you know, I think the stigma around motherhood and women working while they are also mothers is that their mind is always going back to their kid. And it's like, my mind when I'm working is also going to like, oh, the fact that I have to do laundry or the fact that I have like plans later, like that is completely normal. And I don't know why the society that we live in puts that on mothers. And you develop these skills. Like I'm not a mother, but I can imagine the type of mental load that it takes to be able to juggle that, and how strong you end up developing your skills to be in that direction of multitasking and compartmentalizing.
It's an absolute stereotype developed by our society, which is a very, very long history. It is a stereotype that is constructed by our society and is thought that once you have a baby, you want to be home with the baby. But the reality is, after the first 3 months, you have that little sausage kind of ready to survive. You're good to go. And
little sausage.
I know. They're little sausages. But for artists, apparently, there is this like really strong, it's getting better through people like Hedy and Jennifer Higgy.
And yourself.
And myself, thank you. It's getting much better, but it's just not true. You can make work, and you can see a lot of examples of young parents now that are just back and juggling it, and it's absolutely possible. And I want to be there as well to show that.
It's so important because as someone who, I'm in my 20s and I never really knew if I wanted kids or not. I still don't know. But I feel like through role models in the arts, in the sector that I live and breathe for, it's so wonderful to have people there who are saying, you can do it. Don't listen to the rest of society telling you that you have to choose or that your career might go down the drain. It's very much, it's so encouraging to feel like there are people that open my eyes to that option, and I feel confident if I were to ever want to go down that route, and I have the choice. So coming back to Kupfer as a project space and the things that you do, another facet is the artist residencies, where you offer workspaces for artists in the rooms in the gallery that are adjacent to the main exhibition space. Listeners, I'm looking at some of the spaces right now, and I can see the exhibition space, but then behind it are also, four rooms. So there are 4 rooms, and very often when you conduct these residencies, there's also a show after the residency has finished. How do you run these residencies, and what's this process like?
So the idea from like to run the residencies came through actual like requests from galleries we collaborate with, or artists to develop their own practice. And Kupfer being a space to experiment and try things out is also a place like we see us as an incubator. So we really welcome artists who want to develop their practice, get stuck, don't really know what's the next step, want to spend some time in London and work and just develop further, find something in the practice that they can only find if they spend some time here with us. And we are mentoring the artists. I really love education. I really love to help artists myself as a mentor, but we also have a great network of artists and, you know, established artists and teachers at universities, tutors at universities, that we can match with a current resident to help them to develop further their practice. And the way it works, we had different, it's kind of a case-by-case scenario where we had an artist from Brazil. She came and she had support by her gallery that represents her and also collectors to do the residency here for 3 months. And she had this focus on having a solo show in the end. So that's what we then did for her. There was the Hackney development grant that we applied for, and we invited Hackney residents to do a residency here for 3 months and a group show in the end that was supported by Hackney. And now we are developing this residency program and see how can we fund these residencies, and we're in the middle of finding different ways to help artists that would like to develop the practice for 3-4 months. And sometimes it can be with a show, it can be with no show and just mentoring. It's almost like an art school injection, like an incubation period.
So you have like crits?
We do have crits.
Love it.
We have mentoring. We have, when we have more than one artist, we have group crits, which I love. We have a workshop here ourselves where you can 3D print, laser cut wood. And we have contacts to kilns. You can do ceramics and all of that. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
And how, if someone is an artist, do you approach artists? Do you have like an application that people fill out? How is it that you then get the artists? I guess it's on a case-by-case basis, like you said, because in the case with the Hackney residents, they had to be living in Hackney.
Yeah, so with Hackney, it was an open call. And right now, it's more like a case-to-case basis. And then for this year, we are quite busy already. But I think probably by the end of the year, we would run an open call and invite people for a residency. But I'm trying to find public funding, which is quite hard at the moment, as we all know. So this is something that Kupfer is very invested in. It's kind of this educational side without being an alternative art school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, with an applied gallery space. So it's kind of, it's a bit different because we have this space to show and like the network also to sell with our platform to help artists to be more sustainable and to go straight in rather than being only in school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So looking at how you want to develop the residency program, I also want to ask you, what are your future goals with the gallery in general? Where, in what direction do you see it developing?
I think what would be nice to be to really be more sustainable for us as a project space and for the artists to have more turnaround and selling the works, which I think is it's something really interesting to be there in early developing stages. And I see it as, you play, you try things out, and things drop on the floor, which are artworks, and then people can appreciate and get them for, a very economical price, which is going to help us as a project and also the artists to keep going. And more collaborations with other galleries worldwide, which we're working on, that have artists we've been working a lot with Sao Paulo, Brazil, that send people over to us, and there's kind of this exchange internationally.
Yeah. It's something that is still quite accessible. And so even for as little as 10, 20, 30 pounds for access and for an access to artists, to a network, to
studio
education.
Visits, when
studio visits.
Residencies are here.
Love that.
Yeah.
Like that's so, I feel like as an art historian and someone who works in a gallery, someone who has a podcast, who loves to write about art and all of these things, that is so valuable to be able to come and discover the work of the artists that you are giving the space to early.
Yeah.
I mean, Abiola, her work, absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I'm so happy that I got to discover her work through the open door, open studios that you guys did one evening. And then you did a solo show as well. Absolutely phenomenal.
We just want to be sustainable and do what we are doing, So that's where we are focusing it right now.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to plug my own TED Talk, but I did a TED Talk in March and it was the title was Can Engaging with Art Increase Empathy? But the answer to that is, of course, yes. There are plenty of studies that say that. And a part of the TED Talk was focusing on changing our consumption habits to, instead of buying the, high street dupe of a designer bag or
buy a painting.
Or buy a membership, go to these places, even as much as like a share online that might then reach someone who will then come to the space and possibly buy a painting. All of these things are incredibly beneficial. So it's increasing the arts engagement, and that's something that is so important, and it's something that the project space completely, it offers such a great opportunity to do that. But on that note, I am going to ask you the final question of the episode. And it's a bit of a fun one that I like to ask all of my guests that come on the podcast. If you could pick one artist from art history or contemporary art, it doesn't have to be from art history, but if you could pick one artist to have dinner with, who would it be and why?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, of course. And I would like it to be Eva Hess.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's such a witty, interesting artist. And I connect a lot to her drawings and her inspiration, to be inspired by materials, and this idea of using latex as idea of immediacy, because I use drawing as an idea of immediacy, because it's right there, it's straight from here, you can express something. And she kind of translated it into latex, which probably we don't really know, but ended her life very soon with 34 years. In later in sculptures, connecting the space around the sculpture to the sculpture, and using the architecture actually to continue the story and all this repetition. And she was a young artist without children, but she has a lot of repetition in the work, which I think a lot about when I do my chores, when I have to fold the clothes for 5 people in my house. So yeah, she would be absolutely somebody I would love to chat and have dinner.
Penelope, thank you so much for coming on the episode, for coming on the podcast, and for sharing your insights.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is it for today on All About Art. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a rating or a review, as it helps more people discover the show. Also, feel free to share with your friends, or if you share on social media, tag me and get in touch. Thank you so much for listening.